Hello everyone, we are pleased to present you with a new Burda style video. In this video, we will show you Cape 1C from the cover of the number 6 Burda Easy magazine from November-December 2021. Together, we will see how to sew this appealing cape made from high-quality blue wool fabric. We sourced it from our partner C Poly, the specialist for organic, GOTS certified fabric. Capes have been out for a while, but they're back now and more fashionable than ever. The perfect blend between a poncho and a coat, they are the it piece for the season's wardrobe. Neither too warm nor too light, our cape features a small collar, a double row of buttons, and of course, its characteristic sleeve slits. For sewing supplies, you will need matching thread, straight pins, a machine sewing needle, a hand sewing needle, fabric scissors, a tape measure, tailor's chalk or chalk pencil, a ruler, a tracing wheel, Burda tracing paper, interfacing, buttons, and snap fasteners. Don't forget to take your measurements and compare them with the table in your magazine. That's how you can find the perfect Burda size for you. Now copy or cut out pieces 1 to 5 from pattern sheet 1 and place them on the fabric as shown in the cutting layout. Copy the pattern outlines and add the seam allowances specified in the instructions and all the notches you will need for constructing this cape. I am using a tracing wheel and paper to copy the notches and seam lines to the wrong side of the fabric. Before removing the straight pins from the cutout pattern pieces, I carefully place the pattern underneath the fabric and push the tracing wheel along the pattern and over the notches and lines. I have already ironed the interfacing onto pattern pieces 3, 4, and 5 as shown in the instructions in your magazine. For the seams, I'm using the Excellence 580 Plus sewing machine from Elma. For the neatened edges, I am using the Elma Extend 864 Air Serger. It is easier to neaten certain edges before sewing them together, which is why I've already neatened the shoulder and side allowances of the back piece and front pieces. Now I start at the side seam. I place the front piece on the back piece, right sides together, and pin the side seams together. I stitch along seam 1, slightly easing the shoulders of the back piece. I stop at the first notch and secure the seam end. I now insert my needle at the second notch and stitch the seam up to the lower edge. I secure the seam end here as well. I press the seams apart and stitch them around the sleeve opening 1 cm or 3/8 of an inch from the edge. Second step, the collar. I place the collar pieces right sides together, pin the outer edges, and stitch. I trim the allowances and cut the corners on a diagonal. I turn the collar right side out and press. I pin the open edges together and place them on the neckline edge between seam 2. I make sure that the reinforced collar is on the top and that the collar notches match the shoulder seams, in this case, the side seams. I pin, or you can also baste the allowances together, and stitch. Now on to the facings. I place the back facings on the front facings and pin them to the shoulder seams. I stitch them along seam 2, press the seams apart, and neaten the outer edges. I now place the facing on the cape, right sides together, pin the front edges together, and then pin the neckline to the collar. The shoulder seams must meet. I stitch the allowances together and also stitch the lower edge of the facings to the hem of the cape. I trim the allowances and clip the curves close to the stitching. I cut the corners diagonally and trim the hem allowance, stopping around 2 cm or 3/4 of an inch before the outer edge of the facing. I neaten the seam allowance and turn the facing to the inside. I fold the hem allowance to the inside and press it. Next, I press the front edges and neckline. I pin the edges. You can also baste if you'd prefer and stitch 7mm or 1/4 of an inch from the edge. I pin the hem and stitch 2.5 centimeters or 1 inch from the edge. I use a few hand stitches to fasten the neatened edges of the facing to the hem and shoulder allowances. Last step, the buttons. I measure the distance between the X and the pattern in size 34 and copy this distance onto the cape. From there, I copy the other X's by inserting a straight pin at their center, remembering that the bottom X applies to all sizes. Now I sew the upper parts of the fasteners to the right facing edge and the lower parts to the left edge. Next, I sew the decorative buttons to the right front as shown on the pattern. The cape is now ready to wear. Start sewing before it gets much colder and kick off the season with style. You'll be amazed at how simply and quickly you can sew a beautiful, unique trend piece yourself. And as the cape is available in different lengths, there's a model for everyone. Don't forget to share your creations with us and other sewing fans on our social networks. See you soon for a new model. Burda Style thanks and recommends our partners Elna and C. Polly. Thank you for following us and see you soon with a new Burda Style tutorial.